Today to tell a story of a growing movement of hundreds across Canada who are choosing to live into a life of integral ecological conversion. By sharing each of our stories, we are expanding the larger story. Welcome and thank you for being here. I'm Agnes Richard, the National Coordinator for the Mouvement Laudato movement in Canada. There's been a very dedicated team working to prepare this special event. Anna Johnson, if you'd like to wave, Anna, is the North American Senior Programs Manager for the Laudato Si movement. Kathy Murtha is a member of the Laudato Si movement in Canada Advisory Circle, and she'll be leading us in a reflective prayer and a land acknowledgement. Karen Van Loon, another Advisory Circle member, has been instrumental in the administrative organization for this event and will help facilitate some of the breakout rooms while also keeping an eye on your comments and questions in the chat box. We have 6 facilitators of the breakout rooms, and some of those have assistants to help them with tools like Jamboard. Facilitators, if you could just wave, and I'll introduce you later as we come closer to the breakout rooms. Nice to see you there. While we could not provide live English to French translation today, we have made an effort to include the French language on slides while English speakers are presenting, and we have dedicated breakout rooms for sharing in both official Canadian languages. You may find it helpful to keep the chat open on your screen because we'll share questions for you there, and you can also put your own news or resources there if you'd like to share them. This event is being recorded. The chat box and Jamboard pages will be saved and edited for clarity, and so later we will send them out to everyone afterwards. We'd love you to share your contact information with the group, and if you do so, we assume that you give permission for us to convey that to everyone who's registered today. Before I hand things over to Kathy, I would like to share greetings from Bishop John Hanson in the form of a video recording. I'm just going to stop sharing this screen. And I'll tell you a little bit about Bishop Hanson. Bishop John Hanson was born and raised in Grand Prairie, Alberta. And in 1998, he joined the Congregation of the Most Holy Redeemer, the Redemptorists, and received his Master's of Divinity from St. Michael's College in Toronto. In 2015, he accepted an appointment from Bishop Mark Hagamoon to serve as pastor of Our Lady of Victory Parish in Inuvik, as well as to take care of the missions of Tuktoyaktuk, Palatuk, and Sigetchik, located in the Diocese of Mackenzie-Fort Smith. On December 15th, in 2017, Pope Francis named him the 7th Bishop of the Diocese of Mackenzie-Fort Smith in the Northwest Territories. And I will now share his video message to us.
Good evening, everyone. This is Bishop John Hanson of the Mackenzie-Fort Smith Diocese. It's my true pleasure to bring greetings to you from the bishops who are gathered in plenary this week in King City, north of Toronto, as you begin your meeting, your national meeting for the Laudato Si movement. We are in the middle of the season of creation. In my diocese, it's felt like lately the season of devastation as we've been evacuated and displaced due to the wildfires across our territory. We've seen the same thing in BC and floods on the East Coast and major storms across the country. As you gather to discuss Laudato Si and its ramifications for our world, just know that you're doing it at such an important time. It's one thing to read this document and see its importance, but even more that as a church we put what it has into action, and you are at the front lines of making sure that this happens, to keep it alive. As we look forward to the upcoming renewal document, which Pope Francis will be sending out next week on the Feast of St. Francis, we thank God for the work that you do. We ask Him to bless it, to open the hearts and minds of all Christians and Catholics everywhere, so that we may not take our common home for granted, but will continue to receive it as gift and do what we can to make sure that our next generations will have the same gift to appreciate. So may God bless you tonight. May God shed his light upon you, and may all good things come of your time together. God bless. Thank you very much. Good night.
And thank you, Bishop Hanson, for that beautiful greeting and blessing for us this evening. I'm just going to pull up the slide deck once more. And once I have that in place, we're set now. On to you, Kathy, for our
amazing, Agnes.
land acknowledgement and our prayer.
Okay, I'd like to invite everyone to take a deep breath and allow the sound of the bell in the next slide, hopefully, to bring you into the here and the now, the sacred present moment, the only place where the divine dwells. Just take a moment and sink into the silence. And let us begin in the spirit of the indigenous peoples who always begin with gratitude. Robin Wall Kimmerer, the renowned indigenous botanist and knowledge keeper, often begins her sessions by asking people to think back to that moment this morning when you first put your feet on Mother Earth. And as you do, allow the feeling of gratitude to well up within you. That Mother Earth was there to support you. That you had water to quench your thirst and refresh you. You were greeted by birdsong and enriched by the lavish colors of plants and flowers. The trees were there to support your every breath. What a world. And in such a world of wonder, beauty, and generosity, what can we do but sing our gratitude? We also give gratitude to one another as people as we walk through this world with our gifts and our responsibilities, each and every one of us. And we give special greetings and thanks to the original peoples on whose homeland we stand. As we gather today from coast to coast, may we become ever conscious that we're on the traditional territories of diverse nations, Métis, Inuit peoples, whose heritage date back over 10,000 years. We seek to live in respect, peace, and right relations, and are mindful of broken covenants. Take a moment to silently recall the names of the original peoples of the place you call home.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kathy. I'm going to take just a quick minute now to give you a brief overview of our meeting and the agenda. It will be posted in the chat box for you to see as well. But to let you know how the evening will proceed, we'll have several opportunities for you to participate in breakout rooms. The first one will be a very short one. It will be an icebreaker between us in small groups, and Kathy will tell us about how that works. The second one will be a much larger one, a 20-minute breakout room, and we'll divide up by region. In the third, we'll ask you to select a topic that you'd like to discuss with other participants. We sent those 5 topics in the email that I hope you received with the login information for tonight's meeting, but I'll review them for you as we get closer to that second themed breakout session. When it comes time to join the breakouts, there will be an option to choose the one to go into, and we'll show you that in a few minutes. Now, I'll pass it back to Kathy for our icebreaker.
Take a moment and reflect. What cry of joy and cry of pain of the earth do you hear at this time? We're now going to put you into small little breakout rooms so that you can get to know a few people. And when you get into that breakout room, introduce yourself and where you're from, and then what's your response to that question? What cry of joy and cry of pain of the earth do you hear at this moment? You have 5 minutes in your breakout session.
So as Agnes gets our slides up, I am excited to talk about the Laudato Si movement on the global scale. So my name is Anna Johnson. I'm the Senior Programs Manager for North America for the Laudato Si movement. We are a movement mobilizing Catholics and all people of goodwill globally, active in over 110 countries around the world, to care for our common home. As Pope Francis says in Laudato Si, the urgent challenge to protect our common home includes a concern to bring the whole human family together, to seek a sustainable and integral development, for we know things can change. So here we are working together around this. Some of our main priorities, and one of the things we offer is around global solidarity. So we have this incredible opportunity that as different chapters of the Laudato Si movement mobilize around the concerns closest to them, we can work together around the world in that issue. So our chapters in East Africa are working very hard to stop the East Africa crude oil pipeline from going into effect. When the Laudato Si movement global heard about this, a lot of the animators in Europe said, well, where is this crude oil pipeline getting its funding? From the banks that are right around us. And so the animators in France held a prayer service in opposition, a public prayer service in opposition to the funding of the East Africa crude oil pipeline. Our animators in the UK protested outside of the banks that were funding it. And you can see there was even a show up of animators in the Vatican in St. Peter's Square. So one of the benefits of belonging to Laudato Si Movement Global is that we have this opportunity to connect around the world. On the next slide, you'll be able to see one of our key areas of focus is around the biodiversity crisis. In Laudato Si, Pope Francis says it is not enough, however, to think of different species merely as potential resources to be exploited while overlooking the fact that they have value in themselves. We know that we are on the precipice of an extreme crisis, having crossed planetary boundaries on the biodiversity area. And he goes on to say, because of us, thousands of species will no longer give glory to God by their very existence, nor convey their message to us. We have no such right. And so part of our engagement of the biodiversity crisis is that we are adding this on to our calls to action within the global north, thinking about how we engage with the call to biodiversity. In addition, our other areas of advocacy include the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty and divestment from fossil fuels, recognizing that if we're working together to build God's kingdom, then we cannot be investing in its destruction. Along with prophetic advocacy, we also engage in ecological conversion through prayer and personal reflection, as well as opportunities for sustainability. As we do this, if you can go to the next slide, Agnes, we have different opportunities for engaging. And one of those is through the Laudato Si Animators course, which you can register now for the next Laudato Si Animators course, which is on demand beginning on October 7th. I will put that link into the chat so you can register and become an animator yourself. In addition to that, perhaps you've heard the amazing news that Pope Francis will be releasing an apostolic exhortation just a week from today. That's an update to Laudato Si. And that is going to be an amazing, amazing opportunity. And so there will be a global webinar that will happen on October 4th that will be talking about what's coming out in that exhortation. And then we also will be holding a webinar on October 25th that will talk about discernment of how we discern differentiated responsibilities in Canada. What does this exhortation mean for our work in Canada? To speak specifically about our work in Canada, I will hand it over to Agnes to talk about our wonderful chapter.
Thank you so much, Anna. it's really amazing. It's been great for me to be part of this international movement, to see people around the world blossom into this work. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of the Laudato Si movement in Canada, and then give you some actions that we can all work together on as a country. So, the Laudato Si movement, Canadian chapter, was created through a collaboration of two parent organizations. Faith in the Common Good provides technical and administrative support and shares many practical resources for faith communities to live out their calling of caring for creation. The international Laudato Si movement provides global solidarity, as Anna said, technical support, as she's doing very well in this meeting right here, and international campaigns and resources, as well as the training that Anna mentioned for people who want to be more active as Laudato Si animators. The Canadian national chapter of the Laudato Si movement focuses our work on four main pillars of support and engagement with our membership. They encompass personal transformation and build to transformation of our society by focusing on ecological conversions of our spiritual lives, our lifestyles, reconciliation with Indigenous peoples and the earth, and advocacy in public policy. We're very proud of a powerful tool to help leaders in spiritual settings discern how to assess their financial investments in terms of an ecological conversion. It is rooted in Catholic social teaching and follows the See, Judge, Act model of discernment. Please look up this tool, share it, and use the many resources provided inside it in your conversations with family, co-workers, in parishes, in dioceses, and in educational and healthcare institutions. The links here will be provided to you later too. Don't feel that you have to capture them right now. You'll receive them later. There is much we can do individually and in our regional groups. But in this national gathering, we have two actions we would like you to consider participating in as a countrywide focus. The first is to write a letter to your bishop or ask to have a meeting to discuss either divestment from fossil fuels of pension funds or assets held by dioceses, or supporting activities that enhance biodiversity with the leadership and traditional wisdom of Indigenous peoples. Following this national gathering, part of the package we will send you will have a few examples of letters you can use as a model to write your own letters. Please contact me via email and let me know if you send those letters and if you receive any response. The second action we would like you to take is to sign the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty, which is a call to governments. So you can sign it yourself as an individual, and you can also invite local Catholic communities to endorse the call as organizations. The Laudato Si movement, Mouvement, Laudato Si Movement Canada, and Faith in the Common Good have all signed on as organizations. Please join us. Here is how you can be in touch with Laudato Si Canada events. You can watch for news in the coming weeks of the Canadian webinar that Anna mentioned in on October 25th. And we'll talk about evaluating how Canadians can respond to Pope Francis's update to Laudato Si. As a participating program in the national nonprofit Faith in the Common Good, I want to share a little about what that organization and the great tools and resources they have to offer. So this is one of the parent organizations to Laudato Si movement in Canada. Faith and the Common Good has many excellent practical programs to help communities of faith reduce the carbon footprints of their properties and their practices. They are also valuable partners in interspiritual conversations and are bridge builders in collaboratively caring for our planet across many spiritual traditions. These are covers of some of the resources that people have found very helpful when they talk to their faith communities about what their plans might be. These are available by taking a look at the Faith in the Common Good website or by reaching out to the executive director. Faith in the Common Good is proud to share this updated poster, Sacred Green Teachings, with ecological quotes from the guiding texts of all the major world religions. You can arrange to order these posters from Faith in the Common Good by contacting the executive director, Michelle Singh. Now, I'd like to take a moment and introduce you to Sophia Lamas. She is the administrative assistant for Green Churches Network, or Iglesia Verde. Sophia started working with the network in 2016 and holds a master's in public policy from Central European University, where she wrote her thesis on assessing Canada's challenges to implementing effective climate change policies and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Her faith and the environment have always been the two most important aspects of her life, and she has been happy to join an organization that jointly supports these two concepts. She's going to tell us about Green Churches Network. Sophia.
Thank you, Agnes. Merci beaucoup. Bonjour à tous. Donc, mon nom, c'est Sophia. Je représente le réseau des Églises vertes. Je me joins du territoire non cédé de Mohawk à Montréal. Je vais faire la présentation en français, mais je peux aussi répondre à vos questions en anglais ou en français si vous voulez. Donc, we can go on to the next slide, please. Donc, le réseau des Églises vertes vient à soutenir les communautés chrétiennes pour améliorer leurs pratiques environnementales, tout en gardant l'aspect de notre devoir en tant que chrétiens pour garder la création. Et nos trois piliers pour en faire en sorte, c'est par l'action, l'éducation et la spiritualité. Par l'action, on vous offre des outils pour réduire vos empreintes écologiques, votre consommation d'énergie et réduire vos gaz à effet de serre par des subventions du gouvernement provincial ou fédéral ou autres. Aussi, par l'éducation, on vous offre des outils pour comment promouvoir le compost, le recyclage et d'autres activités par vous et vos communautés. Comment peut-être commencer un comité vert au sein de votre communauté et de votre église. Et finalement, l'aspect de spiritualité. Donc, la spiritualité, c'est là où c'est le plus important. Comment est-ce qu'on peut intégrer plus de textes qui parlent de l'écologie venant de la Bible, mais comment est-ce que vous, dans votre communauté, vous pouvez intégrer plus des textes comme Laudato aussi, comme d'autres textes aussi, qui promouvoient l'aspect de conservation de la sauvegarde de la temps pour la création. Next slide, please. Donc, je vous ajoute ici nos coordonnées pour qu'on puisse se mettre en contact. Nous sommes très heureux de faire des partenariats avec vous et aussi vous offrir tous les services que vous avez nécessaires. Je vais ajouter dans le chat box nos coordonnées et notre site web pour qu'on puisse se mettre en contact. I'll put in the chat box our email and our website information so we can get in touch. And happy to start any partnerships and conversations on all aspects that we're talking about today. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sophia. So you've heard from 3 organizations that are busy and ready to help anyone who is wanting to engage in Laudato Si in Canada, and we invite you to connect with us. I hope you had a great time. I wish I could be a fly on the wall in every one of those rooms because I know there would be exciting things being shared, even though, as all breakout rooms are, they're very short. But we are going to share now with the main group what you were talking about. And I'm going to call on each facilitator to summarize what was talked about in their rooms. And then there is also someone on standby who can give a short story about each region, and I will call on you by name as well. I'm going to start on the West Coast, and I'm going to ask, is Sister Linda back in our main room? She is. Can you tell us how things went in the British Columbia breakout room?
The very first thing that someone said is that, of course, in British Columbia, they have been under fire alert for a good part of the season. It's very dry. They have to be on alert. There was one person who was evacuated. I know that we had sisters in the north of BC who had to be evacuated as well. I was quite impressed by the number of activities that they have been involved in. There's several people on Vancouver Island and on the mainland, Port Moody, Kelowna, Langford, and it's very encouraging to see all the people and what they are doing. There is an Anglican parish that is following Laudato Si and encouraging. The number of people have shown the letter in their parish, which has generated a lot of interest. And it's many people have been involved in rallies, letter writing, and listened to webinars and passed them on. So I would say on the West Coast, one of the things that I do want to mention is the old growth logging in the Fairy Creek that one member is particularly involved in. And there are so many ways that ordinary people can have to share. So
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Linda. Derek Pinto is on standby. He took the Laudato Si animator training last year, and he's been busy trying to connect other people. So Derek, if you'd like to tell us about your experiences there.
Yeah, so in BC, I just wanted to, I know I only have a couple of minutes, so I'll just get right to speaking about old growth logging. So the NDP government promised to stop logging old growth 3 years ago, but they haven't actually done it. So there continues to be roads built into old growth forests that were supposed to be protected, and it's been 3 years now. And so so there's a rally happening actually on the 28th, so this weekend, tomorrow, to defend old growth forests. It's a cooperative effort between multiple organizations. So I hope to see some Laudato Si members there and taking part. And the details I've posted in the chat, as well as on the pinup board there for BC.
Thank you so much, Derek. Wow, that's great. That's good to hear. I'm going to ask Chris Cricknell now. Chris, I hope you've had a chance to connect with some of the folks in the Prairie breakout room. But Chris is doing double duty. He's facilitator for that room, but he's also giving us the snapshot on what's happening in the prairies. Chris, to you.
Yeah, so thank you. So I did come late because I got my Eastern time zone change mixed up. So I heard some really interesting things in the breakout room, and I also did a little bit of research to talk about some things that Catholics specifically are doing. So generally on the prairies, my overall impression is a lot of this energy has traditionally gone into working across denominations and into interfaith efforts. So to looking at things that are specifically Catholic, that's a little bit more of a difficult question. And probably one of the reasons is that, as one of the participants in our room shared, there's a lot of bias against even the idea of climate change, particularly in Saskatchewan and Alberta, but also in rural Manitoba, I've experienced that. So things that people have done tend to focus still there, and there's still a major need for this on education. This can include education amongst religious orders, like we heard about for the in the group, and then doing small acts that have significance, right? So for instance, there's 600 secular Franciscans on the prairies, and one of their outreach activities was to plant just a basic idea of like planting a tree in Old Alberta in a schoolyard, and thinking through that process as it's growing. People make strong choices for witness on as individual Catholics. One of our participants registered their farm in the Treaty Land Sharing Network. And then so on this idea of like practical things that Catholics are doing, These are some that I'm aware of that I was entangled within. So in Winnipeg, the largest parish is St. Ignatius Parish. They've had an environment committee that's been active for a long time. They sold the Green Rule poster that's associated with faith in the common good. They sold other eco-friendly products. They worked to reduce waste at parish events. And they held, again, that idea of education initiatives. In my college, St. Thomas More College, we took as an institution the St. Francis Pledge to Care for Creation and the Poor. That's now the Laudato Si Pledge. And then we worked on ethical investing. And we got the college to commit as much as possible to use its endowment money to support socially and ecologically beneficial entities. We got rid of things like paper cups at the water coolers. We installed water fountains that had water bottle fillers. We did energy efficient renos. And now there's a debate going on to try to get solar panels going. And of course, we've hosted many academic events, including on integral ecology. The Diocese of Saskatoon itself, again, much education. The new cathedral has stained glass windows that have solar panels that encourage that eco-spiritual connection. That another thing that came up in our group is that there's a real need for that eco-spirituality to be developed on the prairies. The Eparchy of Saskatoon runs a human and environmental development program under Dr. Lassia Sabata, and they do some interesting work. And then St. Peter's in Munster, Saskatchewan, has encouraged, rethought its mission as kind of being a place of rural vitality, the monastery and the college. They've encouraged things like low intensity farming, modeled it, beekeeping, and then all in the spirit of reanimating rural communities. And they've also, our country cousins have beat us to the punch, and they've installed the largest solar array possible under the Saskatchewan sort of regulation. So that's a little snapshot of some things that have been done.
Thank you so much, Chris. I see in the chat box that people are looking to hear French. I'm sorry that we can't, across all of our meeting, have a French translation. We weren't able to set that up. We have 2 more report backs from Ontario, and then there will be a report back from the Francophone meetings as well. So if you can just bear with us, and we'll try our best when we return information to you that we translate everything that we have in documentation, so that the Francophone folks can read if they haven't been able to hear what we're saying in this meeting. I'm going to go now to Karen Van Loon, who was Ontario Breakout Room number 1.
Sure. Hi, everyone. It was wonderful to hear how active everyone was on caring for our common home in different ways and in different places across Ontario. We heard from people from Ottawa, Hamilton, Chatham, Toronto. One person mentioned being active with youth and in and working in schools on the Generation Laudato Si book. And another person, different people mentioned in different ways being active in parishes on connecting through development and peace on care for creation. One woman was connected more with the Anglicans in Hamilton and working on green energy audits. And also in Ottawa, the Laudato Si groups that were working on water within the parishes there. So it was inspiring to hear how active people were, and we didn't have really a chance to start doing any of that connecting up. And I encouraged people to continue to post if they had anything further they would like to say in the main chat box that we have here. And there was one person in particular towards the end who was just trying to speak about the possibility of collaboration, and I would love to see more about that in the chat. So thank you very much.
I did post it in the chat. It says cliffhanger for Ontario 1 group. If anyone wants to collaborate on biodiversity credits, we are starting to do some research. That was Luke from Rocha, Canada.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and Luke sent a message that he had to leave early, but he was pleased to be part of that breakout room. I'm going to call on Mireille now. Mireille is going to give us a snapshot of Ontario, and after her, Kathy and Martha will talk about the second Ontario breakout room. So Mireille, to you.
Okay, I'll try to keep it within 2 minutes. Great things are happening, not enough, but it's a good start. For instance, there's many parishes, including the diocese, who've held special creation masses. So that's going to be quite an impact on the others as well. We set up, in memory of John Dorner, a Care for Creation Award that has been given to a youth who's started club in the French Eastern Ontario School Board called Héros de la Terre, Heroes for the Earth. So there's going to be a little bit prize money with that. We had an art show last weekend to celebrate creation. Our own Archbishop was called upon to preach at World Youth Day on integral ecology. And I feel very proud of what he did. And it's been also an education for our clergy to be forced to pay attention to integral ecology. So things are progressing at the Archdiocese. In different parishes, we mentioned the Laudato Si action groups, which are the water group and the indigenous, who's also very active. And in different parishes, there are family bike rides, there are hikes focused on honoring and appreciating nature, stargazing. One parish has started a new protocol, which is called the Creation Care Guidelines, and appreciating that we share a common home and we can have an impact. And this new protocol is distributed and also posted for all caterers, for all functions at the church, to respect the reuse of items and avoid plastic and so on and so forth. There's a new church that is going to be built in Cumberland, and they aim to be net zero in terms of their impact on the environment, with a projection to install some solar panels. So that's interesting. 3 different showings of the movie The Letter in 2023 since September. And also I've heard from Hamilton, from my colleague Joe Bazina, and they have had to focus a lot on the cry of the poor and focusing on supporting refugees, also with workers who come on a temporary basis. And they've been working in Hamilton, just as we have in Ottawa, distributing material to the different parishes, documents which we get from the different organizations and so on. There's an increasing link between development and peace, social justice, and the indigenous. So all are encompassed with the care for creation. That's a general trend that we're observing.
Mireille, thank you very much. Now, I'm going to go off script for a moment. Mireille, is it possible that you might be able to give a small portion of what you just said and say it in French for our Francophone colleagues?
Right now?
If you can, if you
Yes,
feel uncomfortable.
no problem.
Oh, perfect,
Oui.
thank you.
Oui, quelques commentaires sur ce qui se passe dans l'archidiocèse d'Ottawa-Cornwall. On a institué, suite à un membre qui était très impliqué dans notre communauté, un prix qui s'appelle le prix John Dorner pour la sauvegarde de la création, qui a été accordé à une jeune fille qui a implanté un nouveau club dans le conseil de district scolaire catholique de l'Est ontarien qui s'appelle Héros de la Terre. Donc ça va devenir une tradition. Aussi, on a eu un vernissage la fin de semaine dernière pour célébrer la création. Alors, on avait 8 artistes et c'était une belle opportunité pour le public de venir apprécier et honorer la création. Notre propre archevêque, Monseigneur Danfous, a été appelé à prêcher à la JMJ à Lisbonne cet été sur l'écologie intégrale. Donc, c'était un travail de fond avec lui pour l'éduquer et l'amener, et j'étais très fière de sa présentation. On a des groupes d'action Laudato Si. On a aussi dans différentes paroisses des tours en vélo de famille, des excursions en forêt pour apprécier la nature, des événements pour observer les étoiles. Une paroisse, entre autres, a commencé un protocole d'accueil pour les différentes fonctions sociales qui s'adressent aux traiteurs et aussi aux différentes manifestations dans l'Église et qui veut démontrer que nos choix quotidiens ont un impact sur la planète et donc réduire l'usage de choses qui sont jetables, ne pas utiliser de plastique, etc. Et pour finir, tout comme mon collègue à Hamilton, on distribue des ressources régulièrement à partir des différents groupes qui nous fournissent des ressources, des campagnes de lettres et aussi des intentions de prière. Et on a une église, Sainte Faustina à Cumberland, qui est en construction ou incessamment là, dans la prochaine année et qui vise à avoir un impact carbone zéro et qui projette d'avoir des panneaux solaires. Alors, je pense que ça résume assez bien.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking on a little bit of extra. I'm going to call on Kathy Murtha now to tell us how things went in Ontario Breakout Room number 2.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was in a very dynamic group of dynamic people that are very committed and passionate. And they did seem to have some common interests. Certainly around the issue of ecological conversion, spirituality, retreats about loving the earth and that we need to change our consciousness. We need to find prayers that celebrate creation. And a lot of the people are working in their parishes with Ministry of Care groups, garbage and recycling and things like that. And one parish in Ottawa, a small group, is really involved in water issues. And they have a water focus. And once a month, they do a reflection on water and prayers around water. And then reconciliation with the Indigenous seemed to be a big issue and a theme that went throughout the group. Audrey was with me. Maybe she could hear something else. And I apologize to the group that we didn't get through everybody. But know that you can put it in the chat, what you wanted to say. Audrey, do you have anything to say to?
Thank you, Kathy. I think you captured the main themes that came out. I just wanted to add that it was very inspiring to hear what was happening in the parishes. And I apologize, my camera is off because I need to conserve battery. The battery on the laptop, I don't have a charger, and I'm sorry about the noise. I'm like in a public space as well, so sorry about that.
Thank you very much for being here, Audrey. No worries about the sound. Thank you for sharing. A lot was happening in the Ontario groups. I'm going to call on Joe Gunn now, and he's going to give us some feedback from Atlantic Canada and English-speaking Quebec.
Well, so of course, the obvious thing to say is that everything happens in Atlantic Canada is the best in the country, and includes those Anglophone friends in Quebec. We had a good conversation. To save time, I won't repeat many of the things that were said in other groups. Actually, were also shared. Everything from using the letter to special homilies and liturgies and so on and so on. Let me focus on one perhaps unique contribution from people in the Atlantic, and this is Kevin Moynihan's website. It's going to be shared with everyone at the end of this meeting because we put it into the Jamboard. kmproductions.ca has several movies that Kevin and his team have made that are available to use and educational purposes around Laudato Si and other themes. So let me stop there.
Thank you so much, Joe. There is someone else on standby willing to give us a snapshot of how she's been working on things. Marian Langos became a Laudato Si animator, I think 2 years ago now, and she has some nice things to share from her corner of Atlantic Canada.
I'm afraid I'm just sharing what I have. I didn't.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Didn't do it for the other people. Just basically, my husband and I were greatly moved by Laudato Si and giving a couple of book studies that led to a network of people that we were able to donate food from our orchard. So it was just to me, a combination of cry of the earth and cry of the poor. And for ourselves, we have created a website, newclimateguides.org. It's designed to educate people on the climate crises. Any topic that is, I guess, talked about in the news, we've tried to pull together the science in a way that people can learn. And, is not being science talks exactly. My husband, he writes more what we call white papers, like more condensed science. And I kind of lean towards a more of a PowerPoint mentality. If you would please share, we put so much work into it. We want desperately for people to understand the climate crises. And that's our contribution. It's newclimateguides.org. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Marian. I really appreciate it. Now I'm going to call on Jean-Pierre Fortin. He's going to share with us how things went in the Francophone breakout room.
So thank you, Agnes. Dans le groupe francophone, je vais débuter par le français parce que c'est la langue principale qu'on a utilisée dans ce groupe-là. Donc, il y avait la majorité des participants provenaient de la grande région de Montréal et ou de l'Est ontarien. Et puis, il y a une variété d'initiatives locales qui ont été présentées, allant d'une pétition pour stopper les écocides causés par les pratiques minières inappropriées en Afrique, à la sensibilisation de la population l'usage qu'ils font des moyens de transport, réduire des initiatives visant à sensibiliser les gens, les jeunes tout spécialement, les étudiants à réduire l'usage qu'ils font de l'eau et aussi à déblayer la rue ou une des rues dans les quartiers où ils vivent pour ramasser le plastique et les canettes, pour prendre conscience de la quantité de plastique qui est produite et qu'on doit ensuite gérer. Il y avait aussi des initiatives de création de comités verts à l'échelle diocésaine ou archidiocésaine pour faire en sorte que les comités des paroisses puissent connecter les uns avec les autres et joindre, regrouper des ressources et des initiatives. En même temps, il y a aussi certaines attentes ou désirs qui ont été formulés, comme celui de voir des leaders de plus haut niveau, et pas seulement des gens qui sont directement sur le terrain, pour proposer des initiatives et des actions favorables, spécialement au niveau gouvernemental, donc municipal, provincial et fédéral. Donc, une recherche de moyens pour faire en sorte que les initiatives puissent aussi émerger des niveaux plus élevés d'administration et du gouvernement. Il y a aussi une observation de l'expérience qui est partagée, un sentiment d'impatience par rapport au fait qu'il y a beaucoup de conversations à propos de la crise environnementale, mais il n'y a pas autant d'actions. Donc, comment faire pour passer de la sensibilisation verbale ou cognitive à la pratique effective, locale et plus globale? Donc, now I will try to summarize what I just said into English. So in English, that means that our participants in the French-speaking group were mostly coming from the larger or broader Montreal region and the Eastern Ontario area. A variety of initiatives were proposed, such as petitions opposing inappropriate or non-sustainable mine extraction practices, initiatives at the very local level to sensitize youth and young adults and students in particular to reduce their consumption of water, or to clean up streets in their neighborhoods to actually be sensitized about the amount of plastic and non-reusable objects that are constantly produced and that we have to manage. Other initiatives were related to sensitizing people to their use of transportation means. And so focus to moving on individualized, more polluting means to public transit, shared transportations, etc. A few observations in terms of expectations and desires or wishes were also made. Among these were the will or the desire to see the initiatives move from sensitization at a cognitive or verbal level to actual initiative and action on the ground that makes a difference concretely, and very focused action specifically. There was also a very strong sense of a willingness and a need for collaboration across organizations so that there could be a joint effort and a combination of resources, a gathering and a pooling of resources to increase efficiency and the range of the actions. Okay, I think that sums up.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. I'm going to give a small apology. We had planned a second breakout room. We're going to have to make it a fair bit shorter, but that second breakout room had to do with a number of themes that we suggested to you when we sent the Zoom login. We're short on time by 10 or 15 minutes. So let's see. I can give you a snapshot of what those themes were. Let's see here.
Not opening the breakout rooms, but just not having a report back publicly. I can make a quick Mentimeter for people to share back in the Mentimeter after it's finished, but we could still open the breakout room so people can have the conversation if that sounds good.
That sounds perfect. So what I'll do is I'll just remind you what the breakout rooms are. We've listed them, and I think, Anna, are they listed A, B, C, D, and E?
I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, number 1 is Laudato Si animation, strategies for bringing Laudato Si to life in parishes or other communities. And Joe is facilitating that room. Faith and prayer. How can we root this work in faith and prayer and highlight that our care for our common home is part of our Catholic faith, especially in situations of misunderstanding and resistance? You could also choose the third possibility for a breakout room is around reconciliation with both the earth and Indigenous peoples. And Chris Rickno will facilitate that breakout room. We have the fourth, which is on biodiversity and faith, strategies and resources for faith communities and families and parishes to protect and enhance biodiversity. Linda Gregg will lead that breakout room. And then the Francophone room will be a very busy one because you're covering all of the topics in one room, and Jean-Pierre and Genevieve Gallant will facilitate those rooms. Now, we will choose which ones we want to join, as you did before, and we'll only have 10 minutes to share ideas and questions in this breakout room. And it's all set, and you can choose the one you want to go to. People are coming back in, so we'll just wait a minute to have the main room fill up again. And here they all come. Fantastic. Well, we've made you work in this webinar, and now your hard work is over. And I hope you've enjoyed being part of the breakout rooms and chatting with each other.
Can the people who did not get a chance to say anything because they got removed, put something in chat? Tom and Christina.
Yes.
Really wanted to hear what you had to say. Thanks.
So you can just open the chat box and type, and what you type there will be captured for everyone, and we'll include it when we send notes back to everyone at the end. And I just wanted to share with you that we have had some technical difficulties. not of our making. It was suggested to us that there have been some Zoom updates lately, and some of those Zoom updates have moved things around on us and have also made Anna's job a bit tricky. So thank you very much for your patience. We're not going to report back on what happened in those individual rooms when we were talking about the different topics, but that information will be captured and sent to you afterwards. Anna is going to post in the chat box a link to a little survey that we would like you to take a look at and do for us so that we can understand how your experience of this national gathering, and so that we can help, and you can help us plan our national gathering for next year, because this will be an annual event from now on. So I'll just reiterate that the whole meeting was recorded, and we have multiple ways of capturing the different conversations, and we will share that with you. Am I missing anything now at this point before we go to Kathy for our closing? Okay, that's good. I'm going to share my screen.
Just Anna or Agnes, I would just add that if people put their contact information into the chat box or onto the Jamboards, that we're assuming it's okay to share that. And if people don't want it shared, please send me an email afterwards. And I'll put my email in there, but it's also in all the communications.
Okay, perfect. So the slides we have up now are part of Kathy's closing words and ideas to share with us. Kathy, to you.
Yes, the two slides you're going to see. Well, last summer, a wonderful group of women called the Women Community Hope, Seeds of Hope Women's Community. They shared this PowerPoint at the annual Laudato Si retreat that's held every year at Jericho House. And I thought their closing slides would be a great way to close our gathering and spur us into some action. So take a moment now and reflect. What seeds of hope for the long haul can you take away from our gathering here today? Just think about that for a moment. And if you want to put one word or 2 words in chat, we'll save them for you.
Let me know when you'd like to go to the next slide.
Okay, we'll move on to the next slide.
This one's a fun one, folks.
Aren't they great slides? Great.
If you don't know how to make corn.
Sow seeds of hope wherever you go, though some may fall on the thorny ground. Sow seeds of hope wherever you go, some of the seeds bound to grow taller than you ever could know. Sow seeds of hope wherever you go, though some may fall wherever you go. Sow seeds of hope wherever you go, some of the seeds bound to grow taller than you ever could know. Sow seeds of hope wherever you go, though some may fall wherever you go. Sow seeds of hope wherever you go, some of the seeds bound to grow, taller than you ever could know. Sow seeds of hope wherever you go, though some may fall wherever you go. Sow seeds of hope wherever you go, some of the seeds bound to grow, taller than you ever could know. Sow seeds of hope wherever you go, though some may fall wherever you go. Sow seeds of hope wherever you go, some of the seeds bound to grow, taller than you ever could know.
In Clarissa Pinkola Estes' letter to an activist during a troubled time, she says, "Do not lose hope. We were made for these times. When a great ship is harbor and moored, it is safe. There can be no doubt. But that's not what great ships are made for. And so now we send you off with our love and our blessings to whatever shores await you." And we end with a prayer from the Leadership Conference of Women Religious. It was an online prayer during COVID. Oh, great love, thank you for living and loving in us and through us. May all that we do flow from our deep connection to you, the earth, and all beings. Help us become a community that vulnerably shares the earth's and each other's burdens and glory, and listen to our heart's longings for the healing of our world and ourselves. Amen.
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 It's been a busy 2 hours. Thank you all for joining us. We've had a great gathering to celebrate the season of creation. We hope that you've found inspiration in the conversations that you've had, that you've made connections with people that you'd like to chat with again, and watch for our package that we will be delivering to you shortly. It might be not next week, but the week after. It'll take us a while to combine everything, but blessings to you all. Happy season of creation. Watch for the recordings and the invitations to events to hear about Pope Francis's Laudato Si Part 2. And now I will say good evening and have a great rest of your week, all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night. Oh, I'm sorry. We did give voice to Father Hyacinth, who is going to tell us briefly about what he's working on in Quebec. So I'm sorry, if you have time to stay on, Father Hyacinth will tell us about things.
I think you, Agnes. I'll speak in French.
Sure.
It's okay. Okay. Je suis à Gatineau, comme je l'ai partagé dans le groupe. J'avais participé quand j'étais à Rome aux formations de GPIC et en 2020. Et quand je l'ai implanté dans nos provinces parce que je suis de la congrégation de Saint-Jean-Eudes. Et donc, dans les provinces du Venezuela, de Bogota et au Brésil, nous l'avons implanté pour que les gens puissent faire. Ici, quand je suis arrivé au Canada, à Gatineau, il y a 1 an, j'étais en paroisse et j'ai demandé à des jeunes de pouvoir... Est-ce que c'est ça que tu veux, Agnès? Is it what?
I'm sorry?
You want me to I'll do the quick translation.
Okay.
And then, so he's very happy to be here. He's in the Diocese of Gatineau, where he's been for the last year. And that's because he did some training in Rome in 2020, the JPIC, Justice, Peace, and Integrity of Creation training. And so he's been working to ask young people to become more involved and to work on Laudato Si where he is in Gatineau. And I know he's also looking forward to being in touch with the Ottawa folks.
Oui, c'est ça. Et la prochaine étape sera de former cette équipe pour la formation et puis travailler avec le diocèse pour implanter ça dans nos paroisses. C'est ça.
Exactly. So to work with young people to really develop the team in parish and then kind of to be able to replicate that and do that throughout the Diocese of Gatineau.
Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.
I
appreciate you being able to deliver that, and I'm sorry we had some technical glitches earlier on.
Yeah.
But we are now just 2 minutes past our time. Thank you everyone for joining, and we will say good night. I hope to see you again at this similar event next year.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Merci.